Hey everyone, welcome to another hot episode of Commerce Rewired. I promised you the last episode we would have a surprise, an amazing guest. I'm so honored to have on Commerce Rewired today Jeremiah. Jeremiah, thanks for waking up so early this morning and joining us. We really appreciate it. Looking forward to diving into some great topics and the pre-top topics before we started hitting record. There's some deep conversations going on. Let's see if we go there today. I'm looking forward to everything. First to our sponsors, Cattle. Thank you again so much for sponsoring us, especially at the beginning where really people don't want to take a shot on anyone. You're doing it and stepping up right away, as well as Kitten Ace. Thanks to Kitten Ace for sponsoring us from the start as well. It means a lot to us, and it helps us get this thing going and off the ground. So now that we've got those things out of the way, oh yeah, like, subscribe, do the thing. It helps the algorithm. And let's get into it. Jeremiah, let's talk about Sleep Country. That's an inside joke. So let's talk about PolySleep and how it's the fastest growing company, one of the fastest growing companies in Canada. What's one decision early on that, looking back, changed the momentum for you?
Well, before the decision, it was the double herniated disc and me being bedridden for 3 months, right?
Mm,
You know, prior to starting PolySleep, I was in Martech. I was at a startup called Mediative that was shifting some of the largest investment we had from the Yellow Pages to tech company. I love marketing from an early age. Barely started to touch back in the days. That's, oh God, like 15 years ago already. I always had an interest to digital commerce. E-commerce was just emerging back in the days. It was the year of the mobile for 3 years in a row. We were still very hyped about hyper-local targeting. And one of my friends told me, hey, you know what? We're buying all this equipment for Casper back in the days that wanted to have a local producer in Canada. And he said to me, with your expertise, I think you could make a killing because that's a new market. We could deliver bed straight to someone's home, like any Amazon package, basically. And that's how it started 10 years ago. The decision really that I think made us successful were about out of the 150 brand we were at some point, probably now 10, 20 remains. And as a joke, like you said, 8 of them are owned by Sleep Country now. The difference is really the product. And I have a background in graphic design. One thing that really helped us is I said, I want to anchor a color, not only to the brand at a brand level, but also at a product level, which is why now people, when you say PolySleep, now in Quebec, most of them know the brand, but in the rest of Canada, it's not as known, so to speak. But when they see the mattress that is purple and white, that's where also the recognition happened. So I think that's probably one of the big decisions I made early on, but also relentlessly trying prototypes. We made 22 prototypes before going to market with the PolySleep, and I was the test subject. So patience.
mm.
That's
Jeremiah, when did you know? You mentioned you worked at Mediative, and when did you know you wanted to head up something? You know what I mean? Like becoming a CEO is a decision, right? Sometimes it falls on your lap. Sometimes it's a decision you make and a drive you have. When did
Yeah.
that happen for you?
It was a bit of a Hail Mary for me, to be honest. I was in this position where, technically speaking, I was employed by Yellow Pages by close to 7 years, another 5 years at Mediative. And because on the payroll, it was the same entity, when it was come to leave because Mediative was closing down, I had a very good package. And I was like, what do I do? Mario from DAC was like, hey, you could join us, or other company. I had other opportunities, but I was also contemplating the fact that I had about a year where I had no financial stress whatsoever, and I could try something wild. I could also travel all around the world for a year and be very happy. That back injury happened, and this is where I said, you know what? Financially, I'm not going to take that much of a risk. So I know I'm going to be clear-minded when it comes to taking important business decisions. Because let's be honest, when you have to pay a mortgage, food, I didn't even have kids, right? But if you have kids and all that, the level of risk sometimes you'll have to take, not necessarily as a CEO, but as a founder in a startup, will create a lot of imbalance in your life. So that really helped, to be honest, Johnny. And then the rest was, Hail Mary, let's go, let's try it. If it works, awesome. If it doesn't work, well, we tried. We're going to readjust. A couple of times at the beginning, I have to say I'm a pretty resilient person. But yeah, being a founder of a startup tests your resilience quite a lot.
I hear that a lot in that it's very lonely. And I think when you and I talked last year, it's so lonely to be a founder, and when you're in a corporate space or you're on a large agency side, there's people around you all the time who are living, doing, feeling the same things. You have leaders who are supporting you. Being a founder, and that's the journey I think watching you for the last several years has been amazing to me, is not only are you building and driving PolySleep, but I see you invest so much in founders and people around you. And I think that's the important thing about the PolySleep brand. You're out, and when I look at who you are sponsoring and who you're supporting, that seems to be so much more mission driven than product driven. I love that.
Yeah. We have the opportunity to make a big difference in people's life. But first and foremost, I have to have the right team and the right mindset to do so. I think it starts at the company level, right? I'm not in a race to raise as much capital or grow as fast as I can or start selling all kinds of products. Our mission is really proved to us, which is empower wellness through sleep. And we know we're just part of the equation, right? We're selling the sleeping surface, the hardware, so to speak. The idea is to say internally, how did you sleep and what's your stress level is part of every question I have in my one-on-ones. In our monthly meetings, we do a stand-up, we challenge each other to say, okay, you wanted to read X amount of books and walk X amount of steps. Did you do it? And we have buddies internally doing that. So it's part of a culture. I think it's absolutely necessary to walk the talk when it comes to culture. It's just so easy to throw a couple of values on a board and talk about it during new employee integration and then let it under the carpet where no one was going to see it. But I think also founders, active founders are probably, because they do influence that from the get-go, are probably more attached to these values than just companies that have been there maybe for 100, 150 years. Some of them are doing it pretty well still. But I agree that the mission and the reason we're doing it, the reason we're working so hard is as important as the quality of the product, the quality of the service we give to our customer.
Talk about the founder space being a bit lonely, but what's not lonely is the direct-to-customer mattress business. That exploded. There's a lot of competition in there. It got crowded fast. Talk about how you work through that process.
Yeah, it was extremely hard, to be honest, and I would say that's a cautionary tale I would tell anybody who want to start a business. If you can figure out a way to get inside a field where it's either what we call a blue ocean, so a non-saturated or a very hyper niche field, go for that, or try to find a field where the barrier of entry is as high as possible. And it can be from a skill standpoint. Sometimes, unfortunately, that also goes with a monetary standpoint. But try to find a field that the barrier of entry is really high. For the reason I struggled for so many years. You could go see any of the 4 big 5 foamer in Canada that just bought this equipment with $40,000 and start a brand, knowing absolutely nothing, having a Fiverr logo, a Wix website, and $40K. Here you go, you're a bed-in-a-box company. And some people went a level further, trying to moving their operation from pure drop shipping to creating a brand. And that actually hurts the industry because out of these 150 competitors, more than half of them who are gone already today, some of them remains. And clearly you see by reviews, it's not necessarily a great experience or product. Literally took drop shipped products with very poor quality material and branded it as a direct-to-consumer bed-in-a-box brand, trying to replicate the experience a company like PolySleep or the Sleep Country brands or Casper did. Visually was appealing and people fell for it, had a terrible experience and said to all people around them, don't buy a bed in a box, it's crap. So that was one of the big struggle. And ultimately, patience and resilience prevailed. The only thing you can do is control your costs to a certain extent, knowing that you're going to have to hold the fort for a little longer than the others because they're just there to make a buck. They're not there to build a brand. They're not there to help their customer. They're not genuine about their intentions. So if you're not genuine about your intention, starting a business, you shouldn't even start it because there's going to be at some point so much competitors that you're not necessarily, I mean, I hope for you if you start a business, but you're not necessarily going to have positive EBITDA every single year when you start. And if you do, good for you. But a lot of companies will have to sacrifice certain things for the greater good. And that's what happened in the industry. A lot of them just died organically. They were like, it's not profitable. I don't have a good product. I certainly don't have a good experience. So it's not going to work out. And they just disappeared.
Jeremiah, before you mentioned about the every month you have a stand up and you guys do challenge each other. I want to tell you a story. One time I was interviewing for a retailer in Canada, really nice retailer, big retailer, and it was my third interview, and so it was going to be with the CEO. And I show up, and there's 5 people. So there's a CEO, and then some people in other departments that I didn't expect to be there. Some were junior, some were management level, some were director, and 1 or 2 were going to be on my team. They were going to be on the marketing team. And so one of the questions I had was, what would you change about the company? And there was silence from 4 of the other people. One of the junior ones actually said something. And there was 2 candidates. It was myself and somebody else, and I took myself out right then. I was like, no. You cannot challenge that CEO. And it was an owner CEO. How do you build that culture into PolySleep and let it be okay to challenge people, right? It's not easy.
No, it's not. The first thing you got to accept is you're going to be wrong. Founder, CEO, it's irrelevant. Sometimes you're going to be wrong. And sometimes, I think we live in an era where emotional intelligence, when you're in a position of, and I won't use the word power, but of responsibility, you have to realize that your role is to really choose the right people, have the right processes in place so that the boundaries are clear, and then equip them with the best tools possible. People, processes, and tools. And you can equip people to perform better if you are able to tap into that emotional intelligence aspect. There's different levers you can use to motivate your troop. And we're gone from the years of the tyrannical board and CEOs that, it's still happening in some organization. But I really think that long term, with the rise of AI, the access to knowledge that is around us, we're surrounded by multitude of books, smart people, conferences, podcasts like today, that the role of a CEO is to be as alert as possible as to what the team want and what makes them happy to either come to the office or jump on a quick scrum every morning to share a little thought, say what their day is about, is there any worries? And you just got to cultivate that. It's honestly not a big project that has to happen. It's really, what are your values? Are they core to the business? And how do you make them live every single day? And it's just about caring, I think. So ultimately, if you're, I'm not saying you gotta, as a CEO, of course you're going to be highly focused on, making sure you got the right resources to achieve your goal, that your company is going to grow, that it's normal. You're in business for that. But I think at the same time, we have the responsibility to make sure that the people can also grow with the organization at a right pace. I think right now we're pressuring a lot of our resources, what I call plasticity, and we break them. We tell people like, it's a little bit like when the internet showed up or the first computer showed up. You can ask someone who did something for 40 years to be an expert at using computers when he haven't used one ever. Same thing with AI. I think people right now are just pushing a little bit too fast internally, and a lot of things break. Sometimes it's desirable for a specific outcome, but I think sometimes it creates more damage for the company itself. So yeah, that's a long answer, but that's what I think is the key to be able to do that. It starts with yourself.
I love that. And you've actually been an early adopter of AI. I've seen you out talking a lot about it. You talk about tools for your teams. And I think I read somewhere, I heard somewhere, you have a strong point of view on the value that should be delivered from AI. And you should see value quickly. I mean, yes, there's test and learn, but how are you? And I love this perspective. I'd like to push you a little bit on it because a lot of people are saying test and learn. You're saying test and learn, but provide value within
right
a
away.
quicker time frame. Yeah.
If you're not sure about the value, let the other test it and then hear about it at a couple of conferences. Just stay aware, but let them burn money first. Yes, I'm an early adopter, and people, I think, overinvest often when it comes to new technologies. One real example we are doing right now. So as you're aware, we do manage our own influencer program. So we have a platform called Impact. And instead of going with an influencer agency. We groom the relationship. We have someone full-time who onboard between 10 and 25 influencer a month on our platform. We have over 300 active influencer we work with for user-generated content. And all these have different persona or life moment, and that's what we leverage both organically and through paid content throughout different campaigns throughout the year. One example we're leveraging AI with a partner is to create over and above this influencer the what we think perfect persona. So an AI personality, it looks human. It's scary. To be honest, it's really scary. You wouldn't tell nowadays that this person is not real. And we're working at the moment on our super mom, so to speak, influencer. She's Quebecer. Accent is speaking Spanish. You couldn't tell that person is an AI. The strength about it is once all that is set up, you have so much granularity and control to, let's say, we want to do a top funnel campaign about moving date that's going to happen in Quebec. It's a big date. And one of the influencer who created the content didn't say exactly what we wanted to say. Well, now with the AI, we have the possibility because we do control the IP. We own that person who doesn't exist. So where I see value long-term is in the output. Because now, through the workflow we have, we can output probably 30 videos a month for less than a couple of $1,000. So this is where I say you can do that at scale or very cheap. But the first people who went all gun blazing, hiring someone full-time, investing in all the tools available, I think they're the loser, right? Because they probably spend, in terms of resource, time, energy, software, tens of thousands of dollars to realize we're not there yet. Whereas you could just conduct a test for $1,000, and this is where we are right now. So we're going to actively use it now. We're doing that prototype, and if it works well, we're going to scale that across every single channel. So what's awesome is just like the video game we did in Fortnite, this becomes one of the IP of the company. So we're going to have our own influencer. It's our IP. We own them, and we can create content. We can have a complete content roadmap, not only about PolySleep, but about how these life moments can be. We could improve the well-being of our customer by influencing them in habits over and above the product. And that's where I would like to go with this technology.
It's very cool. Did you name the influencer? Like, does she have a name?
It's still a prototype. Now she's
Okay.
prototype 3 after a couple of iterations. We're still discussing. It's crazy because last meeting, we were into details like a bit too much freckle. Yes, I want that person to look real and a little older, but I don't want to have too much wrinkle around the eyes because that would signal she's not sleeping well, which we don't want.
Wow.
I want a little bit more bass in the voice. It's crazy how far you can go now. It's pretty
Maybe you
scary.
should ask the AI to name herself and see what she says.
Yeah, we could try that.
Yeah.
Like I said,
yeah. I'm interested to talk about the influencer program because a lot of influencers I see online where I see good traction these days is doing collaborations where you take your product and something that an influencer has and you do a package together to create some extended value. One of the other products I see lately getting some good traction is sleep protein, which kind of relates to your type of product as well. Have you ever considered doing collabs like that, of working with another company that would do maybe a sleep protein in the same category and offer an extended value to consumers?
Yeah, we do that often, actually. We did that with the app Better Sleep a multitude of time. We did that with a couple of restaurants. To be honest, what we're actively working on right now for moving day. So for those who are not in Quebec, everybody who rents in Quebec, July 1st, it's chaos. Everybody move in, move out of their apartment because that's when the lease usually ends and starts. So what we're trying to actively finalize is to find a moving company and a pizza company. And what we're going to do is a contest where the 3 of us, this company, we're going to pay someone. So we're going to pay for the whole bedroom, new mattress, pillows, and all that. The movers are going to pay for moving the whole apartment. And the pizza company will pay to bring pizza and stuff for everybody who was there helping cleaning and installing the apartment, which is honestly a dream. And that's a perfect example of what we're trying to do for the audience with additional brand. We also did collaboration with companies. I think it was it Oura Ring? Or, sleeping technology companies. And you're absolutely right. We do that in usually the context of of a contest, and people love to participate. They love to come and interact, invite people to participate. It works really well. So
One
we do
one of
that
the
on top
things
of regular collabs.
One of the things, Jeremiah, that I did with a company before for moving day, because it is such an important day, was provided pet traveling boxes. So when people are moving, they don't lose their pets, because
Mm,
actually a huge opportunity. The doors are wide open, people are moving furniture,
you're
and
right.
the pets just take off. So we provided free boxes for anyone that's just signed up, and we mail them the box, and it would convert into a pet traveling case, which
That's
it was a
cool.
great success. So that day, just to give everyone perspective, is a major moment in the market. And to find a way to take advantage of that and see how you can fit in, not just sell, but find value for what's happening going on in the market, is probably the best approach, I find.
I agree. There's always great opportunities.
Jeremiah, we spoke about team, and sometimes you have to pay a premium to get certain team members, especially at the beginning. I want to know, when you look for somebody to join your team, what are you looking for, and how quickly in that interview do you know if they have it or not? I feel like
That's
you're a
one
good
thing I
judge of
hate about
people.
AI. That's one thing I hate about AI. It's people are definitely empowered with AI to get much better interview early on. So there's a couple of things we look for. Obviously, it's funny because we did a lot of that recently. We were looking for a new marketing director, which we have one joining our organization in a couple of days now. So the first thing is obviously being in Quebec, and because we're a hybrid force, meaning we're 2 days at the office, 3 days remote, and the days at the office is when we do all teamwork, meetings face to face. We break bread together, we talk together, we bound together. I think that's very important for culture. So that's why we still have an office and meet twice a week. What we do is obviously confirm that the French and the English is where it needs to be, being an organization that is bilingual. The second thing is people don't tend to forget that if someone lives really far from an office, they might eventually be, or accessibility is an issue. So this is something we make sure is clear, that we're going to be 2 days at the office. There's traffic in Montreal. If it's a concern, you're allowed to say, yeah, that's too much of a concern. So all these technical things usually are done with the company we work for our HR. Then I just have a meeting with the person to check if they did proper research about the company. Just asking them, why would you like to join our organization? Because for some people, and up until I hurt my back, I was probably the same type of person. They value climbing the ladder more than anything else. And we're not actively looking for people who are career oriented, who want their next good gig for 2-3 years and move on necessarily. I'm not saying we're not having people like that in the organization, but I really care about having someone that is a fit with our culture, that is excited about working in a company that touch base upon wellness, that would like their opinion to create the next product, that would like to participate and not just say, okay, I'm starting this position there as that. Where can I be, or where would you like me to be in 2-3 years from now? This to me is a bit of a red flag, because I know the person value their professional path more than the organization. And it's going to be very hard for me to revert that. And some people, they're at a point in their career where they understand that, and we understand as well, that you don't work for free, right? So there's an exchange there happening. But they also care about their colleagues as much as that, the condition as much as that. Why are we doing it? The why the company exists. What are we trying to achieve as a team? So the analogy I do give to my team internally is we're in a team sport. I don't want to hire the best tennis player, because that person might be able to work with one person, but not with 5 or 10 person. It's not their sports. So that's the first thing I would say. And then the second thing is we have a lengthy process, because I want the person to have the time to reflect rather than rushing for the first good job opening they have. If they are doing 5 interviews at the same time and they're not willing to do 2, 3, 4 interviews over a period of a couple of weeks, and they take the other job, my HR person right now would kill me, because she hates that in a way. But at the same time, it gives enough time for the person to truly reflect on the why, again, they want to join the organization. I don't want to rush this, which is why the last interview is often a case. We do a case, we say, hey, come to the office. This is exactly what you're going to expect to do, what's going to be expected of you to do on a daily basis. And they present the case to their team. And now I'm going to spoil a bit of the secret as to why I choose often a candidate over another. Is some candidate, when they did the case, will present, impose their vision, and some, which often are the one I hired, will present the case and ask question to the team about if it's a fit and their feedback. And that's what I look at when I hire a leader. I want someone who's going to be inclusive, who's going to care about the team as much as his vision.
That's all. I think people would love hearing that because it's so different than what most people would be like. Oh, we need this, we need that. That was a great example. I just finished a book called Speak Memorably, and it talks about communication, public speaking, how to present. One of the things it said is like through AI and resumes and all this stuff that comes in, and then through all the data that people have being like, yeah, this would be the best match for the company. At the end of the day, from Google to everybody else, likability. Likability is the number one thing where people like, right? Because like you're not going to hire somebody you're like, I don't think I'm going to get along with this person. There's zero chance you're hiring that person, right? And it's interesting, like likability comes up, and you just kind of said it too, is like they're asking for my opinion. They're asking open questions. Like those are great people to have on the team. Thanks for walking us through.
I love that step. And Jeremiah, you and I talked about this when I was on your podcast a little bit,
Yes.
which was a really big learning experience for me early on in my career, where I was building Walmart.ca's website by myself. I went into a room with all of the leaders and I showed them the roadmap. And for 2 hours, I took bullets. Like, why didn't you think of this? Why didn't you think of this? And I'm like, I'm sinking now, right? Like I'm sinking in my seat. I'm like, my career's done. Like the CEO hates me. The operations guy thinks I'm a tool. And I left that meeting. I had a decent plan. It wasn't that it was a bad plan, but I didn't have the whole company engaged in the pre-meetings, the ideas to make it feel like a part of their own. And the advice I got from Jim Thompson, he put his arm around me, great mentor, was like, how did that go? And I was like, that was awful. And he goes, it was. And he said, but he goes, you're learning a lesson that a lot of these final presentations are final because everyone was involved over the last number of months, have the individual meetings, understand their opportunities, their concerns, and not just about your vision. So I've never, ever done another presentation without having full alignment from everyone else in the organization. And my final presentation then becomes basically a sign off for everyone else. And everyone else in that room is an advocate of what I'm saying versus a detractor for what I'm saying. So same for a new hire, same concept, right? Like don't go in and just discredit everything that everyone else is working on. Make everyone part of that process.
And if you do not do that as a founder and CEO, how can you walk away from the organization one day hoping it's going to stay strong, linked to these values? You're sabotaging yourself in a way because you need people who can think by themselves for the organization without having to need your I think like I will succeed the moment I can retire or leave the organization knowing it's gonna prevail. That probably, in my opinion, is the biggest definition of success. More than ramping from 10 to 100 million will your organization prevail and stay core to what you were trying to achieve? Because we know it for a fact. You know, you've been in the corporate world and the retail landscape for so long. It would be foolish for us to predict what retail in 3 and 5 years will look like.
Agreed.
We could try, right? There's assumptions. We're going to get surprise after surprises after surprises.
Absolutely.
Rewind 5 years ago and we just look at what happened and we're like, oh my God. Yeah. So
Oh, yeah.
what we can do is build a strong team, strong values that have as much, like I said, plasticity as possible so that they can adapt and build that resilience and that trust so that whether you're there or not, the organization prevail.
Well, I definitely don't see retirement in your future, Jeremiah. Whether you leave PolySleep or not, I think you have the entrepreneur bug. I
Yeah.
don't see retirement in your near future.
You know what? You're not the only one telling me that. Yeah. I said that to my dad as a joke. It's a curse he gave us. 3 kids. We're all.
I think everyone on the screen is kind of like that. We're constantly trying to find something that engages, inspires us, forces us to think differently, challenges us. And it's not about necessarily succeeding all the time because the learnings you get from each failure is so critical to just think and do things differently. As we get closer to the end of this, I wanted to just switch gears briefly. Commerce Rewired has a great partnership with eTail. We're going to be there in just a couple of weeks. I'm really looking forward to it. And you're on the agenda. You want to talk about eTail a little bit, what you're speaking about, why you go to eTail. You've been there the last number of years as well, just like the rest of us. Love to get your perspective on that.
eTail, just like any conference I attend right now, to me serves two purposes. One, connect with like-minded individuals that help me challenge myself mentally to what will come next, most likely, and how one adapts, because everybody manage stress situation differently, and that inspires me. Just like, how we somehow over the years became friend and we're able to challenge ourselves to overcome all these situations. That's the first step. Then secondly is to see how the market evolve also at a tactical level. What are the tools that are emerging in the market? What are the directions that are, going to a conference like eTail? I remember back in the days or other conferences, the whole discussion between data management platforms shifting toward customer data platform, CDPs, that's what inspired me to push forward and see, okay, why are we moving from this to that? And that was really technologically driven. And there were also a couple of regulations that influenced that. If I hadn't that presence at conferences like eTail, I would probably have that signal much later.
Yeah.
So I would unfortunately not be able to prepare fast enough to catch the wave at the right moment. Lastly, being able to exchange and realizing and accepting, because I think at some point everybody have the imposter syndrome, that you can gain as much than what you could give to other people is also a great blessing. It's highly motivating for me. It's actually the reason why I started the Up at Night podcast. Is I had so many cool exchanges with people. I'm like, it just sucks that only the two of us get something out of it. So let's have this conversation over a podcast, and whoever want to watch it. That's the idea behind all my attendances at conferences. And obviously your network. We know how important having a good network is nowadays.
I got one more. I got my pen ready. I want to know the book that's had the greatest impact on your life, and also what you're reading now or what's next on your reading list.
But you can't answer Johnny or my book. We know those are the top. We know those are the top two. You got to keep those out of the conversation.
They're collecting dust somewhere, but go on.
Yeah. The most significant recently, Little Big Legend by Gare Maxwell, and I had the chance to host an event with Gare. His take on branding through storytelling is just so refreshing, so powerful. Yeah, it's just an amazing book. You should definitely get that book. So Little Big Legend, Gare Maxwell. One that really helped me a lot when I started the business was by Brad Felt, and it was a book, I can't remember the name exactly, but it was about understanding how you could leverage investment for a startup. So how could you go from, a family home office to a Series A to a Series B to potentially private equity. And what I really loved about this book is that it was explaining also the risk associated with raising money and raising capital, which is still something I advocate a lot about, especially right now. If you can avoid raising any money, rather it's family, rather it's a family home office, rather it's private equity, rather it's, a fund, anything, just don't do it. If you can be sustainable with a loan at the bank or probably financing offered by government institution that helps startups, awesome, go get that money. But if you have to start diluting yourself because you have an angel investor, and all that, people see the flashy thing about Dragon's Den and all that stuff. It's really cool. Sometimes it works really well. More than often, there's a clash of expectation. These guys are there to invest. You become a number. You have to bring, just like if you were public, shareholder value before anything else. And this could really, really ruin your business. And not in a way that people think. What I mean, ruin your business is ruin your capability to remain motivated to push when the times really are hard. So that book, I will have to find back the name, but Brad Felt, and this book was just amazing because that's what really slowed me from going crazy on seeking and diluting the company and getting more investment early on and ultimately having to sell the business for whatever reason. That's one of the big company in my field did that, and the founder are happy about it and they started something new, right? But now this business nature, I would say this DNA is slowly eroding, I think.
Love that point. I lived through a company that had the investments from the angel investors, and we had a good culture. However, the culture was forced to switch during periods of time because you had to deliver a monthly meeting, you had to deliver a quarterly review, a QBR. And in order to hit some numbers, in order to make all of those folks happy, culture was flexible. And it was a key learning because those metrics were more important than staying true to who we were trying to be.
Yeah. And there's a time for that. Don't get me wrong. Right? Growth is never linear. So you will need at some point some sort of investment. You will need funds to go to the next step. Just saying, educate yourself, look particularly about not only the good case, but the worst case. Because unfortunately, when it comes to having investor or even being public, there's more worst case than cases like Amazon, Nvidia, and the big shiny companies we see out there.
Yep, so true.
Great. I guess a last question so we can all get to our busy days. For leaders listening right now, what is your recommendation of the one thing that they should stop doing immediately?
Yeah, it's the same advice I give to everybody. I'm repeating myself every single time. Get surrounded by as many knowledgeable people as possible. Hear everyone out. Don't listen to anybody. That's the best advice.
I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
No,
Yeah.
it's really hear everyone out, get as much information as possible, absorb it as much as possible, but you get to decide through your lens what is going to be ultimately the decision you make. And that's where a lot of people, think imposter syndrome is a bad thing. I think it's great because that doubt will make you seek as much information as possible. And the more information you have, the less dead angle you have or the less surprises could catch you. Once you have that, make your decision, but it's your decision. Don't blindly follow someone because he had success in the past. Past success are far from guaranteeing future ones. That's why I'm saying that to every entrepreneur. Listen to me. Awesome. Yeah, no, hear me out. Don't listen to me. That's exactly what I tell them.
Amazing.
I love that.
Amazing. Well, Jeremiah, thank you so much. I can't wait to see you in a few weeks in person.
Yes, eTail, yeah.
And on site, we're going to be having some live interviews. Love for you to stop by our booth, come and maybe right after you do some speaking, we can interview in the moment. That'll be a lot of fun and just continue the conversation. Thank you for being part of all of our network and have a wonderful day.
You too, guys. Thanks again for the invite and look forward to seeing you all at eTail in a couple of weeks.
Thank you. Go buy PolySleep,
Thank
everybody.
you.